This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm so excited to be speaking with Gina Rodriguez about Not Dead Yet. How are you, Gina?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for supporting the show. This means the world to me. Thank you, Abe.
Of course. My first question is a two-parter. Do you believe in ghosts and do you read obituaries?
Oh, okay. Um, so I believe that we are energy. I believe that we are energy and our flesh is temporary. And now having a son, even as he was growing inside of me, his energy was so profound. It was so there. I mean, we would always say like you know, Charlie coming in hot because he was like so present without being physically present, even as he was just like a little seahorse, growing inside of me. And, as he evolved. And my grandmother, who passed away 2 years ago, she's just so present. She's so present. And her love is so present and her protection feels so present that I do believe that energy is just constantly in motion, and whether we can see it or not um, is, I don't know, a question that I think is to each person's experience of life. And for me, I feel it like 100%. And so that was the long way around. Do I believe in ghosts? I believe in us. I believe in us circulating and coming in and out and around, and then our flesh just kind of like comes and goes. And you know and the second question was what? Because my
Mm.
mind brain is gone.
No, that was great. Do you read obituaries?
Oh yes, obituaries, yes. So I hadn't read obituaries until and I hadn't really. Yeah, I used to always feel like obituaries were morbid, right? I used to always be like, oh, I don't want to read obituaries, it's morbid. And then when I started doing the show, I started looking at obituaries, and what an incredible world that is. For one, it is very much a celebration of life. They are far from morbid and so celebratory and reflective, and they bring so much. I mean, my character actually talks to Cricket about this in the last episode, and Cricket said it was like Angela Gibbs's character said it was like having one last conversation with her husband. And when I read them, that's what it feels like. It's like a celebration along with one last conversation for you. And my grandmother never had an obituary, and somebody recently suggested that I write one. And I thought that that might be really profound for me and my mother specifically, who, always sends me pictures of my grandmother, and will always send me a picture of like the iPhone reminded me of this moment. And so yes, I do read obituaries now, and I do find them to be pretty incredible.
That's very sweet. I feel like this season we there hasn't been quite as much of an emphasis on the obituaries, but there still are some really nice tender moments. Do you have a favorite, obituary that you've interacted with over the course of the show?
I really enjoyed our first episode back with Nico Santos. I thought that that was really, it kind of started the exploration of where we culminate to at the end of this season, where it started the opening of the relationship between Duncan and Lexi. And we really made a beautiful full circle towards the end. And, the last episode, I don't write an obituary. I write a speech as to why I should get a raise, but I had already written Duncan's obituary, and I think that that first one was really special to me, and still is. And I thought it was a really special one. Now that we're in the swing of things, I forget that there's not always like a profound obituary that I write, because I wrote so many in that first season. And so I'm gonna have to tell the showrunners we have to get back to doing a few more of those, because they help the the viewer walk away with something to like hold on to.
I want to flag a spoiler warning just because we'll talk about what happens in the finale. So if you haven't watched the finale yet, this is your chance to go watch and then come right back and keep watching.
Yes.
Here,
Watch all the episodes and then come back and keep watching.
that's true. That's true. So I thought it was a cool, unexpected twist what we see happen with Duncan and how he sort of shows up and then we get him and then comes back. And when did you first find out about this and how did you feel about that direction of the story?
I found out maybe about mid-season that this is where they were heading towards, and that they had like some ideas of what it was going to be. And then about an episode or two before, they came and they're like, "We figured it out. This is what it's going to look like." And I was just shell shocked. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was a beautiful idea, and that it also really explores the or begins to explore the limits of Nell's intuitive powers, if you will. And it really allows us to go deeper into this idea that she really is this bridge. She talks to people in this in between space and what that might mean for episodes moving forward. My father had pitched this idea after we shot it. He was like, I think somebody should like die, but maybe they're not dead. And then you see them in between. And I was like, Dad, it's already done. He's like, they took my idea. And I was like, okay, that's not how it works. But my father was really yearning. He's a massive fan of the show. And trust me, my father is not a massive fan of anything I do, but he really, really likes this show. And I think it's also because it's, for him in his 70s, he likes to feel spoken to. He likes to see actors that reflect his age range, his demographic, and there aren't many shows out there that do. And so he really feels, and maybe he's maybe because he's on his like, I'm gonna give him a whole 25 more years. His last chapter. Um, he he really enjoys reflecting. And that's what I've noticed every time I'm with my dad. He's always like on the verge of tears, which I love him so much for because he's just, really soaking up life. But but I do think that this starts a journey for hopefully we get a season 3 to really go into depths of like what Nell is capable of and what that can mean moving forward and what kind of help she really can do because right now she really has been using this to help those that are transitioning or help those that have lost the loved one with some kind of closure or some kind of lesson for herself. What else could be possible if she kind of seeks out this kind of transitionary period with people other than the people she's written obituaries for? Maybe.
What would you like to see from her? If you were writing the scripts and if season three was already ready, what would happen? What would be the direction?
Oh, Abe, this is the reason why I don't write the scripts. This is it wouldn't be on air because I'm not a very good writer. Um, but I am really excited to continue to dive into Duncan having this knowledge. Nell now not being alone in knowing that she's capable of this. It's really opens up a lot of wonderful challenges and obstacles for Nell, especially because Duncan in transition was all about making money off of her abilities. And so what is he going to be like to her moving forward and how is he going to keep that secret and what does that mean for her and her other relationships in the office? Along with the evolution of her relationship to all the other people in general, with Lexi, her and Lexi's evolving relationship, Edward, her relationship with Edward, and is there like a triangle love there between Edward and Lexi and Nell, and like who gets Edward's love, and so there's I think just so much possibilities with the backdrop of a hilarious workplace comedy.
Did skip over one romantic interest, which makes me a little concerned, although I think it's sort of irresponsible that with TJ, like I think that the idea that they're still going to be such close friends is probably a bad idea, given that they have different interests in life, right?
I definitely only skipped over that because I don't know what's going to happen with that. But what I do love about that, I mean, for one, I do think that me and Jesse's chemistry is so much fun on screen. We're super adorable. You want that to work. But what I found really powerful that the writers do, and they do it with such subtlety, is that they don't shy away from real life circumstances, real life scenarios. We really dive into, we did the miscarriage, we did, you know, talking about divorce, we talk about, freezing your eggs. We talk about real life experiences with a little bit more of a lighthearted perspective so that it's still a very fun escapism TV show, but it doesn't shy away from what's happening in people's real lives. But that Nell chooses herself. And it was so subtle that she chose herself. Oh, this is a spoiler, right? She chooses herself. She chooses to continue to go on the trajectory of wanting to be a mother one day. And this is coming from a woman that changed her entire existence for a man before. And so just to make that subtle action for Nell is really profound for those that are watching and are really, into the show. They see that for a woman that was a chameleon so often in her past experiences, has decided to just kind of like choose herself and go on that journey. And it wasn't such a big hurrah, and it wasn't such a crazy, like, oh my God. It's just kind of like, yeah, I want this. It sucks that you don't want this. But like, I'm gonna maybe for the one time choose me. And I just really appreciated the way they did that, and it wasn't such a exclamation point, and it was now back to, the hilarity.
Certainly a less complicated romantic situation than one that a lot of viewers are familiar with you from a past role. I do a lot of interviews, and very often my wife knows who I'm talking to, sometimes she doesn't, but she was incredibly excited. She's a huge fan of Jane the Virgin, as is my sister. So the two of them were even, I'm very excited, but they were even more excited that I'd be talking to you. Do you think that Jane and Nell are similar, or do you think that they're really like they're both you, but I feel like they're not really that alike?
Yeah, no, I think for so many years I played this character that was so far from me. Jane was uh together and A-type personality and had her shit in order and like was always chose the right thing to do and was super judgy and uh it just really somebody. And because I played it for so many years, everybody thought it was Jane. It was so interesting to walk around and feel so vastly different than her and just be like, I am a hot mess. I am barely holding it together. I don't know where anything is in my place. I am not, I'm not at all clean or put together. Or so to come over to Nell and play somebody that was unraveling and making mistakes and falling apart and asking for forgiveness and failing and then succeeding and then failing again and trying and growing and falling short and then trying again felt so much closer to what life looks like for me. Um, so at least intuitively in my body, they were vastly different, and it was definitely a departure when I played Jane. Um, Nell is also a departure, but not as far as Jane was for me. Um, but well, that being said, I hope I have it a little bit more pulled together. I am about to hit 40. But but you know what? I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Hence why the show I think is so fun.
When I was thinking about your other roles, I thought of Annihilation, which is certainly like super different from this. But I wanted just to end on a different thing that I doubt you get asked about all that much, which is Cajillionaire. That's the kind of role that like such a different kind of thing. Does that kind of role appeal? And will you be doing stuff like that in the future?
Oh, that I mean, for one, working with Miranda July was a absolute dream. She is incredibly brilliant and specific and unique in the most glorious way because it's a uniqueness that draws you in and teaches you about the world and the way she sees the world. And so it is inviting, and she just kind of swallows you up and spits you out anew. It really is. Conjillionaire was one of the most profoundly bizarre experiences I've ever had. And, it was a shame that it came out during a time that it didn't really get its flowers. It really was a pretty badass movie that was so, I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah, just everybody in that film was so specific and they all worked so hard, and everybody worked so hard to craft these characters that were such departures from themselves. Um, that it was yeah, it was just kind of a shame that it kind of got swallowed up, you know? But thank you for bringing it up because I'll never forget what a glorious experience that was and how much that stretched me as an artist and how special, how lucky, you know, I was to have had that in my artistic journey. Yeah.
So, well, I hope to see similar growth in season three of Not Dead Yet coming soon. Let's hope. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Gina. This was a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Aben. Give your wife and your sister my love and tell them thank you so much for the support. It means the world to me.
Thank you.